Welcome to the None But Curious podcast. We're all about finding inspiration in life's uncertainties. Whether you're still figuring things out, questioning your beliefs, or just curious about the world, come hang out with us as we celebrate the beauty of not having all the answers. There's a strange thing about routines. We don't usually talk about them with much affection. If anything, routine is the thing we worry about slipping into. We use it as shorthand for boredom, for losing momentum, for life going a little flat. And yet, some of the most personal moments in our lives are deeply routine. The same mug, the same stretch in the morning, the same walk you take when your head feels full, the same words exchanged before you go to sleep. So why do these repeated ordinary actions so often feel intimate? Humans are very good at noticing when things are unstable. Even when nothing is obviously wrong, the body is constantly scanning for what's coming next, what needs attention, what might change. Therapists writing for Well Williamsburg point out that rituals and routines help us face the unknown by creating moments of predictability. When life feels uncertain, repeated actions give the nervous system something steady to hold on to. A routine doesn't promise that things will turn out okay. All it says is, this part is familiar. And familiarity, it turns out, is really calming. That's one reason routines tend to show up most clearly during moments of stress or transition. People make tea the same way every single time. They replay familiar shows in the background. They walk the same route. These aren't signs of avoidance, they're signs of regulation. Routine says to the body, you're here. You've done this before. You know how to move through this moment. A familiar place can feel pleasant. A favorite object can feel nice to have around. But routines feel different. They feel personal in a way that suggests relationship. That's because routines are shaped slowly. No one else makes their coffee the way that you do. No one else moves through the morning in your particular sequence. And it doesn't stop there. You reach for the same snack in the afternoon without thinking. You take the long way home when you need a few minutes to just decompress. You pause in the same spot before answering a difficult message. Throughout the day, these small repetitions respond to your body and your energy. They meet different needs at different moments, grounding you, distracting you, or even giving you space to pause. Over time, routines settle into your natural pace and preferences, which is why they begin to feel so intimate. They carry memory. Each time you repeat it, the moment carries traces of what came before. Yesterday's exhaustion, last week's relief, that morning you cried while doing the same small task, and then the day that same task felt completely effortless. Over time, these layers quietly accumulate, turning ordinary actions into a record of experience. Alice Boyes, writing for Psychology Today, describes routines as practices that help us stay in rhythm with ourselves. When we choose our routines instead of following ones imposed on us, they feel supportive rather than confining. They create space where awareness can quietly emerge. And awareness is often where intimacy begins. Here's a helpful shift. Instead of thinking of routine as something you have to do, think of it as something you return to. Return implies choice, even when the choice is small, even when it's subconscious. You return to certain actions because they ask something reasonable of you. They don't demand transformation. They don't require belief or motivation. They simply invite participation. And each return is a tiny act of attention. You're saying, this is worth doing again. Not because it's exciting, not because it's productive, but because it feels grounding enough to repeat. And it's this simple act of returning again and again that lets routine become intimate. Now let's widen the lens a little. Routines don't only exist between you and your own life, they show up in relationships too. Shared meals, shared jokes, the same question asked at the end of the day, the familiar choreography of moving around each other in a shared space. But here's where it gets interesting. In an article from Budget and the Bees reflecting on relationships, Travis Campbell points out that routine by itself isn't intimacy. It's possible to share a life with someone and still feel disconnected if repetition replaces attention. You can do the same things every single day and never really meet each other there. So, where does routine end and intimacy begin? It's in how you show up inside the repetition. Are you still noticing the small changes, the subtle signals? Are you willing to adjust when the person beside you isn't exactly who they were last week? And in the moments you know by heart, do you still allow yourself to be curious? When routines and relationships remain alive, they stop feeling mechanical. Instead, they become a shared understanding, a quiet sense of how to be with each other. That understanding, built and nurtured over time, is deeply intimate. And intimacy isn't just emotional, our bodies play a role too. The Mayo Clinic emphasizes that routines support emotional regulation by stabilizing sleep, energy, and stress levels. When our daily rhythms are predictable, the body doesn't have to work as hard to stay balanced, creating the space we need to be present, attentive, and connected. So, whether with yourself or someone else, intimacy arises when your nervous system can relax and feel safe. It's hard to feel connected when you're constantly bracing, and routine reduces that bracing. It creates conditions where reflection, curiosity, and emotional availability are more likely to happen. In other words, routines don't create intimacy directly, they create the conditions that make intimacy possible. So, beneath all of this lies a worry that repeating the same actions too often might mean we stop growing. But growth doesn't only come from novelty, sometimes it grows from returning. Going back to the same action doesn't mean you return unchanged. Each time you carry new experiences with you, different moods, fresh insights, new questions. The routine stays the same, but you do not. This is why so many ancient practices relied on repetition, not because imagination was lacking, but because meaning often unfolds slowly in layers. You can't take everything in all at once. Each repetition reveals something new. So this isn't stagnation, it's relationship between you and your actions, between you and yourself, and sometimes even between you and the world around you. Think about it this way. If someone noticed the routines you return to by choice, what would they learn about what matters most to you? Routines often reveal more than our words ever could. They show where your energy goes when no one is watching. They reveal what you prioritize when motivation is low. They trace the outlines of what feels necessary for you to feel like yourself. That's part of why routines feel intimate. They know you in ways language doesn't always capture. One of the most freeing things about routine is that it doesn't need justification. You don't have to explain why you walk the same route. You don't need a productivity argument for your nightly ritual. You don't need a belief system to support your repetition. You simply return. And with that return, repeated over time, a kind of familiarity forms. A familiarity that feels almost like a relationship, not because the routine responds, but because it receives you as you are each time without any expectation. So, why do routines feel intimate? Perhaps it's because they carry our attention and our memory, quietly shaping the contours of our days. They offer a steadying presence, a space where we can simply be without having to perform or explain ourselves. Routine is where meaning takes root, quietly, gradually, just in the simple act of returning, not through sudden revelations or a dramatic transformation, but through showing up again and again, moment by moment, gesture by gesture. And in those repeated moments, life quietly reveals itself. The ordinary becomes familiar, the familiar becomes personal, and over time, even the smallest gestures carry the weight of connection to yourself, to others, and to the world unfolding around you. Thank you for being here with me today. If this episode resonates, please share with a friend who you think would get benefit from it. You can visit me at nonebutcurious.org. You can subscribe to this podcast. Send me an email if you wish. Either way, I'm glad you're here. And until next time, stay curious.